Today, we're going to be talking about e-commerce, AI, NLP. The goal for us today is this. We want to make sure that you guys can walk out of here understanding why we are talking about what we're talking about, how we're seeing the state of this industry, and you guys have to go and figure out what you need to do to be part of it. So, Bahman, tell me, so you are working a lot right now in the Nlu and Nlp phase. Mm-hmm. By the way, show of hands, how many of you guys know that Nlu and Nlp are different things? How many know that? How many don't know that? Okay. Want to explain, to start off with, what the difference is between Nlu and Nlp?
Yeah, sure. Clicker behind you.
Sure. Clicker.
Yeah, so the difference is, as the names indicate, is that Nlu is understanding what the customer is saying, and Nlp is like, what do you do with it? Yeah. Like, what processing can you do with it, and what actions can you take based on it?
So what I'm saying,
yes,
which is great,
yeah,
but if we can understand that,
yeah,
but if we don't have the ability to do something with that, we're dead in the water.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's useless at that point.
Does that make sense? Cool.
Yeah, so.
My button keeps popping, sorry.
So I can walk you quickly through some of the slides that we have. So basically, this is the, okay, good, now it's working. So yeah, I wanted to just give you guys a quick idea of where we have been in terms of NLP and e-commerce, where we are now and where we are headed. So where we have been is that basically if you have visited any of your favorite e-commerce website, you get to see a lot of clutter on these pages, and most of those clutter is not of interest to you. And the reason for it is there is lack of relevance, and they have a very shallow understanding of the user. And NLP traditionally was not able to help much with that problem because, for instance, if you search for a query, let's say shirts with no sleeves, then you would most likely get all results that were shirts with the sleeves just because they had the matching keywords. Or if you left a product review saying that perhaps it's a great phone, but I can't see why, then it would very confidently get scored as having a positive sentiment because of the it is a great phone segment in the middle of it. So, or recommendations. Recommendations relied on repeated co-purchase patterns that were only available to the largest e-commerce platforms, first of all, and even then they failed for...
What is a co-purchase pattern?
Co-purchase patterns means a user buying two items together.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So if I bought the shirt with no sleeves and a mullet wig.
For instance. Yeah, that would be an example, okay. Yeah. So these things, this approach fails for the long tail items or for new items or for seasonal catalogs, such as the ones that you would have very commonly in fast fashion. So this is kind of where we were. And so NLP was not very helpful, but we have come a long way from there. So these are some examples of the things that we have been doing in Rakuten. So in Rakuten, we have been using modern NLP techniques to extract information, to extract transaction and product information from commercial emails and web pages. And we have also been using these techniques to extract attributes and also categorize and brand products and also identify relationships between products. And we have applied these technologies to e-commerce intelligence, where we gather insights around digital transactions, and those insights drive very high impact investment decisions. And we also use them for e-commerce marketing and personalization, where we do behavioral targeting, real-time rewarding. So these are some of the applications, and we have been getting pretty amazing results in terms of accuracy. We have been hitting 90 to 95% plus accuracy across the board. We have increased over time the throughput per dollar of our systems by 10x and reduced the manual labor that's involved in these systems by 5x. And as a result, we have been bringing in billions of dollars in net revenue, for instance, from some of the investments that we have made based on these insights that we create into digital transactions.
So, Bahman, so one of the big things here that I think is really interesting is the reduction of manual labor.
Yes.
So personally, I'm a huge fan of this idea of when you have something that's high repetition, low cognitive load, basically it happens over and over again, but it doesn't take a whole lot of brain power. Mm-hmm. That's a great place to start to try to build in some AI automation, right? Some RPA, automation, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. In your guys' example, mm-hmm, what were the numbers on this? Do you know?
It depends. Because I'm giving you a kind of a summary statistic of across different use cases that we have. So in different applications, it's different. For information extraction, it used to be very heavily loaded in terms of like the manual labor that you
Right.
needed. Or in terms of product categorization, you needed like a lot of rules, you needed a lot of training data. So
Right.
all of these things now we are like shrinking them. So the amount of
So basically 25 people's work is now done by 5.
basically, or like, well, I mean, like those 25 people are now able like to do more. Basically,
Okay.
that's the right way to think about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So these are like some of the results that we have achieved, but it is not like, but there are still significant challenges. That's I think important to point out that there are still significant challenges today in applying NLP in e-commerce. Like today's NLP models, they require very large volumes of high quality label training data. And there have been some recent research advancements in NLP as coming like through the last like year and a half, that such as pre-trained language models or unsupervised machine translation, and they try to reduce the amount of label training data that's needed. But these research advancements have not yet made their way to e-commerce, to a large part because the language in e-commerce fundamentally is not very natural after all. We don't, when we are looking like for something or on an e-commerce webpage, or when a product description, for instance, these are not the same as like English sentences. So the problem is still there, very much the dependence on the large amounts of training data. These models also are statistical black boxes that are very difficult to interpret and to debug. And these issues become very significant and amplified when you also consider regulations such as GDPR's right to explanation. So they become very important issues. And the third issue that is there with today's NLP models is that they require, like they suffer from inefficiency and from complexity. And this costs in terms of time, like the data scientists' speed of iteration, and also in terms of money that you have to pay to cloud service providers, for instance. And even then, in a lot of cases, the marginal accuracy gains that you get like from these models may not be there, or it may not be worth the costs. So there are things to consider, but given all these challenges, so as I mentioned, so we start from this kind of shallow understanding and clutter on the pages. Now we are at this point that we can get like good results and like relevant results. I think where we are moving is that, so I mean, like I'm not a prognosticator, and as you know, they say it is difficult to make predictions, especially about the future. But I believe that, or at least I hope that we will move towards making e-commerce simpler. It's not simple right now. And the way we do that is through resolving the paradox of choice. Now, the way that can happen can be in different forms and shapes, from conversational agents that understand and cater to the user needs, from all the way like from the pre-purchase research to the post-purchase support. Yeah, so especially this becomes more important when you consider like the shift towards mobile. Where you have like very small screens, and if you are continuing with the clutter that we used to have, that is just not going to work anymore. So this is kind of like a summary of where we have been, where we are now, and where we are headed.
So let me thank you for that. And I mean, and by the way, Ella, I know that you have some very disparate opinions that we're going to get to in a second. She doesn't agree. And we're going to get to that in a second. But I guess, this is my question, and this is something that I see a lot. One of the things that we had happen that was very interesting is we launched a bot on one of our product sites, my team and I, and we launched it about 3 months ago, and this is a very simple bot on a simple product. The fact that the bot is there and able to have a very specific kind of conversation is driving about 1 million plus in additional net new revenue. So net new revenue. This is because we are simply able to be there and meet our potential buyer where they are and give them the information that they need. Now, I guess for you guys in the audience, how many of you right now are using things like conversational agents in an e-com setting or to support your buyer's journey? Show of hands, anybody? Okay. How are you using it right now?
So I gave them my messenger.
Uh-huh.
So I go on my post-purchase tracking on my chat
Okay.
versus email. I really don't have email.
Right. So what she said is she does all of her post-purchase tracking via Messenger because she doesn't have time for email. And that's a really important thing along with that. And by the way, this was not a setup, but this totally leverages into what Ella's about to talk about. So Ella, why don't we pass you over this? Ella, at Shopify, As one of my side things, I do have a Shopify store. Give me a second, I think, to swap your slides up. How many of you guys have used Shopify? Okay. How many of you guys have used Kick? Yeah, I love Kick personally. We're gonna talk about that, but Ella, talk to us a little bit about how we've talked about sort of where things were, where things are, where things are going. Now let's talk about what's actually happening.
Thank you, Brian, for this segue, and it can be better. So, for you who do not know Shopify, we have this very big mission, which is making commerce better for everyone, everywhere. And it's a mission that we actually live and breathe. It's not just something that we say. So Shopify is not just an e-commerce software. It's the best platform that can support your journey as a merchant, whether you're selling online, on social media, or in real life. Whatever you're doing, there is a solution in our platform. And we have the stats to prove it. So Shopify have 800,000 active merchants today, actually over 800,000. We are making more than 100 billion in sales every year. We're in 175 countries, and our app store has more than 2,500 apps. And all of that is because we're hyper-focused on our merchants. So I do agree with your vision. The only thing is I believe that this vision is a reality. This is what we're living in today. So if you look at, for example, we have just shipped our first ever Shopify State of the Commerce report. So we sliced and diced all the data that we have. We've been in the market for so many years. We have all the big brands on our platform, and we looked at what this data tell us. So we looked and we found four types of buyers. So we have trend trackers who do not have too much money to spend. However, they sometimes do impulsive buys. You have the savvy searchers who search really heavily online before they make the purchase. We have the pragmatic, which are the ones that hate shopping. They know what they want. If they find a set of pants that just fits perfectly, they will just buy it over and over and over again. And we found the engaged explorers. These are the ones that will keep on searching. They get joy out of buying. There is an engagement there. And when you look at the stats and the distribution between the different types of buyers, you find that the pragmatic are one of the highest buyers online, which is actually something that makes sense. And you get to find the ones where engaged explorers are actually less, although you get to see them a lot in Hollywood movies. And which again makes sense if you look at the Gen Z now, like they are more and more savvy, more than my generation. I'm not gonna say what generation I belong to. But
I feel your pain.
I know. So, and then there is the different motivation of buying. So the difference between wanting it, I experienced it and I love it, finding it and needing it. Each of this is a different driver, and accordingly, different marketing techniques will appeal to them in a different way. Just knowing this from the analysis is power, because imagine if a merchant knows how to communicate with you. Like as humans, we have the luxury of reading body language. Body language is actually more than 70% of our communication. So like if I see that Brian is drinking his water, maybe he's signaling that I need to wrap up his
No, I'm not. I'm actually just thirsty.
I know.
Legit, no. Remember, the wrap it up is this. This is just I'm thirsty.
I know, I'm just kidding. But anyways, you read the body language, and then at this point you can change your tone, change your posture, get them engaged in a different way. So if a merchant that only interacts with the buyer through online platform, for example, get to have this understanding, can much better cater their messaging towards their merchants accordingly.
So just to kind of summarize that, essentially, meet people where they are, how they are, when they are, where they are, and why they are.
This is the holy grail for us as humans in general.
Do you guys get that? Yeah. Meet them where they are, why they are, how they are. Essentially, just figure out how they want to be treated as people, even if it's not a person that they're interacting with. And trust me, there's a build up here.
Exactly. So, when we're looking also at the analysis, so I'm going to be sharing a little bit of this report. This report is available online. You can go download it, enjoy the read. So I'm going to share 3 key points. The first one is the battle of the brand loyalty. So we found that 50% of these merchants, these buyers, tend to purchase 2 or more items from the same store. So they are repeated buyers. When you like a store, you tend to go back to. We found that 62 million buyers have bought the same from the same store at least twice in 1 year. That's a lot of people. And on average, the buyer purchased 3.8 times from the same place. That's a lot of repeat. So what you're seeing is an increased and elevated brand loyalty. People are caring more about the story that you're telling.
I think a big thing here too is with Amazon really dominating the e-com space, what you're talking about is they're bypassing the Amazon ease, and they're so damn loyal to these smaller merchants on their own, on a separate platform. That's a massive thing to take away. But how can we support those people? How can we drive that relationship?
So maybe I will skip this part and maybe we come to it at a different point. So there are so many different ways. So just understanding that there is a brand loyalty, understanding that there is a seasonality to shopping, and you start catering your cycles for sales, or even your offers, or even your new drops. Like somebody like Yeezy, when they drop their new shoes, it's not by random. It's not by random. Like, this is when you know that in 20 minutes with this new shoe that is dropped, it actually sells out. So the more you understand these things, the more you empower the merchants. This feeds into like our Kit platform, and I'm just gonna skip towards Kit. So I don't know how many of you know Kit. Okay, you don't know Kit. So
you know Kit.
Yeah. So Kit is our conversational agent. It's actually a virtual assistant. Their job is to work with you, the merchant, to help make your life better. So it ties beautifully to the.
Can I just pause that real quick? What we're about to talk about right now is what Bahman was talking about, which is the NLU understanding what's being said. But what Kit does is it brings in the NLP. The actually go and do the damn thing. That is massive. That is a value add. That is one of the biggest changes and drivers in the next few years, is when you can take a conversational interface and not just have it have a conversation, but actually have it provide tangible net benefit to the user.
100%. And the fact is, this is not in the future. This is in today. And I'll give you stats on its usage too. So what's happening is, Kit can actually, you can ask it to start a marketing campaign for you. It does so many different things. So you can go say, start a Facebook ad campaign within this budget, and it will give you a proposal and it will kick it and it will run with it. You can actually say, I don't like this budget. Like, it will propose something and allow you to go back and edit. Even if you say, I want to do it for $0, it will give you alternatives. It will understand and pivot and move to meet your needs. So it's actually merchant obsessed. So it's focused on that. And even the Kit team in in Shopify has like this big fancy blog that gives you so many different ways to enable that. Kit also communicates to you in multiple languages. So it's not English based only, which is another also natural language processing thing. So if you think about it, it does understand not only English. These connections and network that it built is not only English-based, it's multi-language based. And if you look at how it's being used today, it's actually supporting hundreds of thousands of merchants in conversations a month. This is life. This is happening today. Over the past 6 months, the average 3 out of 4 merchants actually were so engaged that they gave us the why feedback. So when we tell them, hey, here's a recommendation, go do this campaign, they told us, no, but I don't like this budget. Or no, you know what, I want it for $0. They gave us the why, which we then took and we were able to, all of that automatically in the back end, no human in the loop, go and pivot and change the plan to meet their needs. Because most of these merchants are actually small merchants. Like on our platform on Shopify, we have from the moms and pops shop that are just starting, they have this secret jam recipe that they are using, all the way to like super big names like Budweiser and General Electric.
Isn't Kylie Jenner on you guys?
Yes, Kylie Jenner.
Kylie Jenner. Yeah, $1 billion.
Yeah. So yeah, and way more.
Yeah.
I cannot say, but there are way more big names there. So because we have this big variety, actually the one who tends to use Kit the most are the ones that are in scarcity of time and resources. So these are the small merchants to medium-sized merchants that they need to automate things, and they're starting a campaign while on the bus or like picking up kids, which is so empowering. And this is what the true power of AI can provide. So yeah. And this is all live today. So I think my point of disagreeal or is the fact that this is not the future, it's happening.
I think there are caveats there. I mean, like there is like a few things. Like one is, I'm not familiar with this specific product, so there are a few things. Like one is how limited or diverse is the language that can be communicated with this product. I'm 100% sure that it cannot be like diverse enough, just like the state of art in NLP is just not there yet. So that's one thing. The other one is that the big difference is that what I was talking about is for the consumer. This is not for consumer. This is for merchants.
Actually,
No, it is for consumer.
Yeah,
It is for consumer.
Yeah, so I actually use Kit in one of my e-com stores that I have on Shopify. And the thing, so to your point, yes, I can't give it a long rambling diatribe like take a memo and then start talking in the 1920s reporter like do this, say that. There is structure because there always has to be structure to the conversation.
That
that's
works.
being
I mean,
had.
like, yeah, I mean, like
And
that's
we're very
just,
far, and we all know that we're very far from the general AI.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
it's all like with its open.
Yeah.
I think that's
intelligence.
important to point out, though, like to not give a wrong impression to people that just the state of the art, even like in the latest and greatest like research that's coming out in NLP, we're just not there yet. So there is
But the
definitely
question
like
is,
any
you-
product like this needs to have built-in limitations. It's not just like for a product like this, it's for any product. Basically right now what we have in general, like in NLP and in AI in general, is that the problem needs to be defined in a very narrowly scoped fashion. If you define a problem in a very broadly scoped fashion, it's just like, there's just like pretty much like nothing you can do.
Well, yeah, there's
So,
just
so now so now this is a different conversation. Now we're talking about general AI versus narrow AI. And let's all agree and just set the stage. The era that we're living in is still narrow AI. We have not solved the general AI problem. This is not happening in research even.
Right.
So this is not something that is tangible in the near future anyway, because it takes companies some time after research solves it. So this is a different problem.
Well,
Let's not think about it.
and I think one of the things that I see a lot with this, and narrow AI, for you guys that may not know, narrow is like we're talking very specific. Kit, for instance, solves an e-com, a very specific e-com need that it lets you do X, Y, and Z. It lets you manage your store, check your orders, see your revenue for the month, see your revenue for the year, do some marketing, and then there's add-on skills.
Yeah, I just want to know. By the way, it can Slack and send messages to all your clients saying thank yous, sending them information about your orders. So it can do this thing for you.
How many of you guys read text messages but don't read all your emails? Yeah. Okay. So why are we still sending emails?
Exactly.
Why? And this is the difference. Now, the other side of this, though, is as we start to go through this, and one of the things that I find very frustrating about the industry itself in general, outside of what we're talking about, is there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to just take like Amazon or Google APIs, repackage them. They're not solving a problem. I'm all for solving a problem. I don't care how you get there. Use open source I think is a brilliant thing. And I would guarantee you that if we looked at any one of our stacks, there's open source elements in there. Just make sure your licenses are correct or else you are screwed.
100%.
100%. But that being said, there is open source stuff in there. That's different than I'm just going to repackage it and then say, oh, I do AI for this. Right now, what drives me nuts is AI, NLU, NLP are buzzwords. And what I think, one of the things we're trying to get to here, to you guys that are sitting and watching us, is this idea that you don't have to necessarily innovate from the ground up. What you do have to do is solve an actual problem, because that's going to be one that your business has, that could be one that other businesses have that you want to go and sell, but define it, understand what happens around it, and what that life cycle is of it, And that's where it goes to. It's what you
So
guys
I
are
can
doing
give
with
you an
Rakuten.
example. Yeah, I can give you an example that maybe makes the discussion a little bit more concrete. So let's say I go on Kit. So I was saying like the difference between merchant and consumer, and I pose the following question. I say, I'm going on a 2-week backpacking trip. What equipment should I buy? I'm 100% sure this cannot answer that. So that's what I mean. So that's the future.
But that's not what Kit is necessarily designed to do.
Yeah,
Kit is
so
designed
exactly,
to manage your store.
Exactly, that's what I'm
So,
saying.
but
So that's the difference.
Again, but
so
that's,
if I go,
that's a different conversation. I'm sorry.
well, that's the
This
conversation
is-
that I was having. So the conversation is that the future is that
Yeah.
I should be able to go on my favorite e-commerce platform and ask them, I'm going on a 2-week backpacking trip. What should I buy? And it should know that at this like age demographic, on this like kind of like
our search
I'm at this
engine will
location.
actually answer this question.
Yeah, and actually that's
So
what.
that's a problem though. So when you send the user off of your website, you're reducing your conversion.
Ah,
You
no,
don't
no,
want
no,
to
no,
do
no,
that.
no, no,
No,
no.
you don't-
No.
you don't
See,
need
and actually,
that.
this is what we're building right now. Is that exact use case of, as a blank, I am doing blank. What do I need for blank? And understanding that what the intent is there. In that case, it's travel. Travel camping would be very. I'm going on a backpacking trip. That utterance would match that intent. What should So that's your initial statement. Then the second part of the statement is what should I bring? It's a what statement, and bring is going to have an action associated with it, which is going to be essentially that there's a list of things you need, and we would then follow up with, okay, well, are you backpacking across Europe or across an area, or are you just going camping? Binary choice, which one of these, or it could be neither of those,
Okay.
and then we're going to walk into it from there. So that can be done today.
So Brian, give me a second just to
yeah.
explain what we mean.
Sure.
So I think you're hyper focused on Kit itself. So Kit is an example
Sure.
of an AI agent now that can have a conversation, can solve a problem today.
No, I understand how this
Okay,
works. I
so
mean, like,
no,
what I'm
but-
saying is
but
that the scope
me
is
finish-
super limited.
Let me finish
Yeah.
my thought.
Yeah.
Let me finish my thought. The problem that we're trying to communicate is there's a difference between what we can do today and where the future can be.
Yeah.
The future is definitely general AI. Nobody's
I don't know
disagreeing.
about that, but maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
this is what we're trying to
That's
achieve.
More general AI,
Yeah, okay.
More
larger
general.
scoped AI.
Yeah, more wider scoped AI. I agree with this word. I like
We have
this.
1 minute left.
So in general, what we're trying to say is the difference. Narrow AI can solve lots of these problems in a very effective way that
Yeah,
is
for sure.
usable. And at the end of the day, technology is not designed for technology's sake. Technology is designed to unlock humans in a certain problem.
Well, that's
or
how we have been
challenge.
bringing in those billions of dollars in net revenue that I showed. Like, I mean, it's like, so
So-
there is a lot that can be done today, but I want to make sure that we are not giving people false, a false image that, there is like, people should know like the limitations. There's a lot of them right now, like those limitations that they talked about. I think like people should be aware of that, and otherwise it will just be misleading people basically.
So Bahman, so let me ask you this, because I want to give you a final thought. You got 10 seconds. What is something that people that are watching this right now, that are right in this audience, that they should be looking at for their business in the next 12 to 24 months?
For their business. So basically the way to start is that you define like a very narrowly scoped problem that has value for your business, and then you try to see if you have the right data for it to solve that problem. If you don't, then you have to see if you have if you can put in the effort or the investment to create that data. And then you can go about trying some models, like either like off-the-shelf, open source. There's a lot of open source models. There's like cloud services that you can use. And then starting from there, and from there, like trying like to go to an operational deployment. So
Awesome. Guys, I want to thank you so much for this conversation and having it open and candid. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for attending.